You're listening to Cash and Sass. I'm Lisa Marie, your go-to gal for all things money. As the Sassy Wealth Queen and the brains behind the Sassy Wealth Coach, I'm here to take you on a thrilling ride from the financial chaos to sassy and sexy
Welcome
money.
back, my sassy friend, to another episode of Cash and Sass podcast. My name is Lisa Marie. I am the brains behind this podcast and Transcendent Wealth Company. And with me today, I have Monica Kaufman, and I am so excited, y'all. We've been having a conversation before we even started recording. She had, with over 20 years of experience in the financial industry, including roles at Merrill Lynch and Goldman Sachs, and currently serving as the director of financial planning at Harmony Asset Management. She brings a wealth of expertise and insight to every financial journey. As a certified financial professional, she is dedicated to guiding clients through the complexities of building sustainable wealth. As a mother of 2 adult sons and 2 beloved rescue dogs, woman after my own heart, Monica understands the importance of stability despite the challenges of life within a family and planning for the future. She has seen firsthand that financial freedom goes beyond earning. It requires learning to make money work for you and transforming income into lasting wealth. Welcome, 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 welcome. I cannot say how excited I am that you are here and that you're a guest on my show. And y'all know Cash and Sass is all about candid cash conversations. So that's what we're going to have. We're going to talk about money. And I want to just dive in. We were having conversations about how to sustain wealth or even start building it when life is lifing, right?
Right.
And that can be whether life is lifing around you or perfect example, I've had mold issues at the house that I'm renting right now. And OMG, last week I was sick, and then, all of a sudden I'm like, what is this smell? And why is there water on my floor? And now we realize that there's a pipe inside the wall that was leaking and the pipe's been fixed. But again, that's just a perfect example of life lifing, right? One of the things that you said you've learned firsthand is how to build and create that wealth and be able to manage money and have a good relationship with money when life is lifing.
Right.
And I would just love for us to just talk about that, because I think and how you took care of yourself, because I think that's important, right?
Mm-hmm.
So can you just give us a little bit background of you and your journey, and then how you started to realize what you need to do so that no matter what happens in life, you've got control over what's going on with your finances.
Okay. So here's the thing. I could start with one of my favorite stories. I was a brand new baby financial advisor at Merrill Lynch, and 2 separate referrals came in, and they were the exact opposite. One was a very successful doctor, surgeon with a beautiful wife, family of 4 children. And then the other one was a middle-class couple. Separately, neither one of them had ever earned more than $55,000. And the doctor had all the externals and all the shows of wealth. And the other couple had a daughter who was profoundly disabled, was never going to be independent, nonverbal, confined to a wheelchair, and was using a vision board or a communication board, a word board, to talk to people. Like there were 30 words that she could point to tell people what the problem was. And the doctor had had a stroke. And when he had the stroke, if he hadn't have had disability insurance through his employer that he was forced to buy, he and his wife and his children would have had a problem. Then conversely, the other couple, when the child was born, what he had owned a few dry cleaners, I believe, and she had worked for the city where they lived. And the 2 of them made a decision when they first got married that they were going to live off one income and invest the other. And no matter what happened, other than their house, which they quickly paid off, they never allowed themselves to carry debt. When they came in their mid-50s to work with me, in part because I did special needs financial work and they wanted somebody to help them with this, they were organized and $3 million worth of assets rolled over. Okay. So there was real money there, whereas the other ones that you would think would have it didn't. And I stepped back and I thought about my own stuff. I grew up in a family. My parents got divorced when I was 6. My mother had grown up with nothing. And when they got divorced, all of a sudden my mother's fear and financial anxiety went through the roof. My mother's first job as a kid was between second and third grade, so she would have enough money to buy school clothes and shoes. And so she had her fears, and those fears got translated to me. And I was, somewhat happy go lucky until my husband wound up with the diagnosis of depression. And he's had that ups and downs. And it literally taught me the value in the plan, the value and the meaning of planning and understanding money is just a set of tools in your hands. What you do with them reflects what's going on inside of you. Okay. So when I look at myself and I say, oh, I'm making some bad financial decisions this month, or I have for the past couple of months, the question is, what's going on with me? Why am I doing this?
Mhm.
And I mean, I recently had a case where it was sort of discussed with me about somebody, and this person had projected out that she was successful and she had money. And when she died, it turns out there were some issues that came to the surface. So, it's not about the people who have money usually are not the ones who are flaunting it. The people who have been financially wise and successful aren't interested in attracting attention. They use it deliberately as a tool to build their lives. They see it as just one of many tools that they have. And they've made a strategic decision that spending money isn't what makes them happy. They have other things in their lives, and they believe also on a fundamental level that, and I believe this is true, you're created to be responsible. Freedom is the same thing as responsible. You choose how you respond. Can't control other people or anything else. You control you.
Mhm.
And that flows into how you manage your body, your mind, your social interactions, okay, and your money. It flows all the way
Mhm.
across. And, as my coach likes to say, how you do anything is how you'll do everything. Once you master it in one area, it will flow into the others. When it doesn't, you have to ask yourself why. Where did you receive the programming that led to this kind of dysfunction?
Yeah.
Does that-
And then figuring out where the steps to take it so that you're aligned, because I tell people all the time, you can be rich, but if you're not aligned with your values and your goals and your desires, then you're not wealthy because you're just miserable. And look at Dolly Parton, and
Mhm,
that woman's got more money. She doesn't flaunt it, she doesn't talk about it, but look what she does
mhm.
when there's a need, right? She
She's right
for
there.
years she was making donations and doing those books, and the only reason we found out about it is because somebody wrote about it in a newspaper and told them, and that's how it got out. She was donating money, donating band equipment to some of the schools in her area. New band equipment for an entire high school. Like, y'all, I don't know
Amazing.
if you understand how much money this is, but
A lot.
go look it up. Okay. It's a lot. She, if they needed band uniforms, she's done this for years. And the
Mhm,
reason why people are now hearing about it, one, we got the internet. Two, it's because someone went and said something right as the internet was coming out. And that's how it got out. She was doing it beforehand. None of us knew.
mhm.
Like you're talking about, is because she knew, okay, if I want to make a difference, if I want to help people change their lives where I came from, this is how I do it. And she's doing it aligned and she's still doing it. Taylor Swift is another one. The woman goes to concerts, and y'all don't care what you think of her music, okay? But the fact that she goes to food banks, the only reason we found out about it was because someone recorded it and put it on TikTok. She did not tell anybody. The only reason we found out about it is because we had TikTok. That's it. That's the only reason. And
Yeah.
people are like, wait, she wasn't, no, she was not the one. It was someone else.
Right.
And so it shows you, right, that someone told me a long time ago, who you are before you have money will just show up more after you have money,
Mhm.
meaning who you are as a person, and your goals and your values. And I believe that because I was so afraid of having money would change me. And a lot of people are. They're like, oh, I didn't come from wealth. If I all of a sudden get money, it's going to change me.
No.
No, actually, it's not going to change you unless you let it. if you care about other people and there are things you're wanting to do, then as you get more money, you're going to make sure. Yes, my coach says this: take care of first. You have to take care of you.
Hmm.
Then you take care of your family. Then you take care of your community.
Hmm.
Then you take care of the world.
Right.
You can't go. I can't go out and take care of the world if I'm not able to take care of the community. I can't impact the world or change the world if I'm not doing me and my family first. And so when I looked at it that way, I went, huh, okay, me, my kids, my community, then I can go out. So again, as I grow, and it's what Dolly Parton did. She took made
Hmm.
sure she was taken care of, her family was taken care of, and then she does for her community. So it I really love that because that's that concept of if we look at it in that way and say, okay, let's make sure what we're doing matters. I believe you can spend money on yourself and
Right.
be financially responsible.
I do too. And here's the thing, like, I don't know if you remember the book, The Millionaire Next Door.
Yes.
Okay, so when it first came out, I disparaged it. And then when I saw those two clients and it came right to my head, I thought, oh my God, this is what I just saw. Okay. Bought the book, read through it, and I started watching and I saw that it was values and actions. And I saw that it was about building that out. And then it was
Mhm.
funny, like the more I watched this, the more I realized some people, like, for example, one of my rules is you have to love somebody or something that is honorable. And if you're going to use your money as a weapon to control or hurt somebody else, I want nothing to do with you.
No, I
Right?
want nothing to, I don't want anything to do with you or your money.
Correct. And that's the whole thing. It's like, if you don't have that values alignment, if you're using your money to get revenge, no, thank you. Okay. If you're trying to control somebody, no, thank you. Okay. And it's very, very simple. It's just part of life. But it's also a question of, if you work on yourself and get stronger and you have a better, more grounded belief in yourself and you learn to have some emotional regulation, you're going to be able to build wealth. So,
Mhm.
in a very real sense, you have to build out that idea of being accountable and responsible and taking ownership in a very radical way in order to build wealth. Okay. You
Mhm.
look at some of these people like Dolly Parton, disciplined, hardworking, focused, talented.
And
Okay.
she did not come from wealth. Go do
No,
your research. She didn't come from it.
but the fact of the matter is, most of the people who come from wealth, it's funny. They talk about it. Old wealth is wealth that survives intact past the third generation. So the first generation typically makes it, second one sort of spends it, third one blows it. And I've seen this. I've seen people where, the grandparents have been phenomenally successful. They've been responsible. They've been proactive. The parents are okay. And the grandchildren are, you can see the train wreck coming. You can see it coming a mile away. And you sort of look at this and you say, okay, what are we doing? And for me, what I have found is that I've seen too many people, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I've seen too many people literally destroy themselves with money. And the question is, did they do it because they were arrogant? Did they do it because they had a bad conception of it? Or did they do it because they didn't believe they deserved to succeed? What was the money story that they inherited?
Right.
Okay.
What's the root of that cause? Because, you know, you can make money, but if your mindset hasn't been shifted,
Hmm.
if that root of that money story has not been shifted,
Yep.
the money will disappear. And I did not realize how true that was, or that was what I was doing when I was younger, every time I would come into any significant amount of money,
Right.
until I was much older. And I'm like, wait, I'm in my first year of business. Why the hell am I broke? I made more money than I've ever made in my entire life, yet I'm
Right.
broke. And that was when someone made the comment of, well, if someone treated you like shit, would you come back? No. And my question to her is, okay. And she goes, so why would money? Huh? And she was like, well, do you hate money? I was like, I hate money. She's like, do you say thank you when you pay your bills? Y'all, I'm Southern. Y'all have heard me say this before. Why the hell would I say thank you when I pay a bill? I do now, by the way. Because when she said what she said about if you treated someone like shit, would you come back? Would you stick around? Would you return? And all of us said no. Then why would money? Money is energy.
Okay.
It's a tool. It's energy. Why? If we treat it like shit, our how you look
Well, and
at it, think about it, and do with it, and it made me think. Okay, wait. What is the root of my story? How do I really think about money? And it made me go down that rabbit hole to where, oh, I need to start shifting my thought process of money if I want to actually be able to truly build wealth.
I had a client, I had somebody that was assigned to me a long time ago, and I was talking to her, and she was an executive. And she was a few years older than I am. Okay. And this was several years ago. And she had done extremely well, got a promotion or was recruited over to another firm, and she got a major cash bonus. And she took that in her emergency fund and she bought a much larger house. Now, her kids were going off to college. One was in college, one was going to go in a year or so. And what she did was she had the family habit or the habit of racking up debt on her credit card over $100,000. And what happened was she racked up the debt and she would take her bonus and she would pay it off. Well, that year she wasn't going to get a bonus because she had a major signing bonus, which she had already used. And she was trying to figure out how. So she wanted to liquidate a retirement asset, the only one she had. And she was angry because the retirement asset was she was not old enough to do it without a 10% penalty, and it was going to be taxed. And she lived in a state with a state income tax. So she had federal, she was at the top bracket, state, and a 10% penalty. And she wasn't going to be able to clear the credit card debt. Very angry. And I said to her, here's the problem. I said, you can liquidate this. I said, but you're at the stage right now in your career where you're doing unbelievably well. And she said, yes. I said, do you have complete control, or do people in your position, especially at your age, have complete control over when you retire? She screamed and hung up, called back, apologized. And she said, you're telling me, I said, look, here's the thing. The debt, the tax is the tax, the debt is the debt. You might clear this, but you need to think about your long-term viability.
Mm.
And the income was so high, there was no reason why she shouldn't have put away.
It was, or that she couldn't start putting away and having more control over her money.
Correct. And so the whole thing was, it's like, what is your conception of wealth? Income is not wealth. Income is
Mhm.
something you earn. Wealth pays you whether you go to work or you don't. So the question is, what is financial freedom? Okay. And I go through this in my program, and I really do mean this. Take the wisdom from the body. And I heard one trainer talk about this. You have, and I know it's a format, but you have function. Everything has to work. So that's stage one. If you break your ankle, you got to let it heal. All right. You're in that function stage. Once you get to the point of health where everything works together, that's your second stage. Your third stage is fitness. Fitness is the ability to handle the load. Financial fitness means you have the ability to handle the load of your bills and funding your goals. Okay. Not having had them fully funded, but funding your goals to the point where you will get to where you want to go when you want to get there. And financial performance is that performance piece, that last one is when you're at that high level. Financial freedom is there. And that means that you can do what you want to do, whether or not you work. So work becomes optional, where every day becomes like Saturday. You don't have to go and stay in your business or stay in your job. And that is a point that a lot of people aspire to, but don't believe they'll ever get there. And so it's one of those things where it's like, okay, if that's what financial freedom is, and let's be clear, and financial fitness is not that you can buy everything, it's that you can pay your bills, live the way you want to, and fund your goals. Where's the dichotomy? What are you wasting? What are you willing to give up?
Mhm.
What means something to you that you are willing to give up something of value, whether it's your time, your money, your resources, in order to have something else that you want? What is it? And deferred gratification is what adulthood is about. And
Well, I mean,
sometimes,
there's also a lot of times I tell people all the time, I'm great at finding money leaks. And they're like, money leaks. I'm like, yeah, I guarantee it, especially in business, but even in non-business, we all have them. We all have money leaks because we have these debit cards. You ain't got to talk about the credit cards. Debit. You tap,
yep,
tap, 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 tap. And when we are not looking at our bank account and looking at where the money is going
right.
and where we're spending it, we have money leaks.
I had a client.
I got rid of cable before getting rid of cable was popular. Because I looked and I was like, I don't watch 180 channels. I shouldn't have to pay $120 to not watch 180 channels. And I got rid of it.
I resented having to bring cable back in order to get a lower price on my internet because it was bundled. So it was less expensive for me to get cable and internet.
It wasn't.
than
It
for me to
wasn't
get.
less expensive for me. So, well, I mean,
No,
they
no,
could
no,
have
it
made me. They
wasn't.
could have made me do it, but I was like, nope, not doing it.
Well, and that's the whole thing. Like, I just wanted to lower the bill. And people are like, "How are you watching cable now?" I'm like, no, I have too many other things to do with my time.
I have
And my
net.
time.
I was like, I have Netflix. We now have Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, and then Amazon Prime. That's it. That's all we have, and it's plenty. And then there'll be memberships that people sign up for that we forget we've signed up for. We do it
Correct.
in business too, and that's
I
why I
signed
tell
up for
people
something.
that
Yeah,
you need to do an audit. And they're like, an audit. And I'm like, yeah, go pull your bank statements, go pull your credit card statements, right?
yeah,
Because I'm not against credit cards if you use them responsibly. I'm not. I love my free points and my free miles, but they got to be used responsibly. If you can't use them responsibly, don't have them. But go pull the bank statements.
yeah.
90 days. Don't do it during the month of Christmas, okay? Because just don't. If you haven't been looking at it, don't do it during the month of December because it'll make you cry. I promise. First time I did it was the month of December, and I was like, oh my God. And then I actually had to like go back. And
Yeah.
so, but you want to do that so that you can have a true picture of where you are spending your money, not just your bills. I'm talking about where the money is actually going when you're
Correct.
tapping it and you're not thinking about it because
Here's
society made it so easy for us to do that.
here's the thing that I have found is that most people don't want to do it and will hem and haw and fight
They're
getting that done.
scared. They're
Absolutely.
nervous.
So
They're
one of the
nervous
things
to
that
do it.
and I get it, and I'm sympathetic, but
I
it
do
still needs
too.
to get
I
done.
do
So
too.
here's
I do
the
too.
thing that I will do with people. I'll say, okay, for the first part of my program, and when you work with me, we're going to work on mindset and understanding that it
Mhm.
is there are certain things that reflect a wealth mindset and certain things that don't. Excuse me. Anyway, so we'll do that. We'll work on the mindset and how to use behavioral science to shift the mindset.
Mhm.
Once we do that, we will also turn around at the same time as we'll build up financial defenses. While we're building the financial defenses, if their bank has the switch where you can flip it and see where your money's going by category, I have them turn that on, but I don't want them to look for the first 2 months or 3 months. What I want, if they don't, I give them a link to our financial planning software. We use eMoney. The advantage of eMoney is that your data doesn't get sold. So if they find out you have a credit card, you're not going to get solicited for a bunch of other credit cards. Okay. If they find out you have a mortgage, you're not going to get mortgage applications. So we connected to there, and I'm like, don't look, just do what you normally do while we're building out financial defenses, okay, and looking at some of those structural things. I turn around and say, great. After that, after we get through that section, we go and look at what they're spending. And I'll say, where do you think you're spending your money? Just by category. Okay. Go through it, flip the switch, show them where it's actually going. And I'll say, where are the gaps? Where are you with all of this? And then we look at, and it's like, look, you need to build a financial foundation. The foundation has two pillars. The pillars are your emergency fund and your debt resolution. You need to pay off the debt. Okay. There may be a time when you keep the mortgage, but other than that, you have to pay it off. So we're going to have to walk and chew gum at the same time. You can't do one and then the other. If you just pay off the debt and you don't build up the emergency fund, if something happens to your job or your employment, you're going to wind up back in debt. I've had this happen to people. People scream, I need to pay the debt off first. And then all of a sudden they lose their job. It happened right at the start of the pandemic where a situation like that happened and a woman was very upset. But the fact of the matter is you can do both, but you're going to have to decide to do both. And I understand people wanting to get out of debt as fast as possible, but that emergency, you can't do this on just one pillar. Once you
No,
do that,
yeah, I don't do the emergency fund. I do several different savings accounts for specific things. That
yep.
way, so it's the same way. You can do the same thing, but you have to build, but you have to build it and pay down at the same time.
The other
Hmm.
thing that I've also said to people is like, for example, and this is part of the defenses, if you work for somebody else and you can't afford to not work, the first benefit you get when you start work, if they have it, is um, disability insurance. Why? 70% of us are going to have a disability event where, through no fault of our own, we're not going to be able to work. And so, having the ability to replace that income, at least on a temporary basis, okay, and it should be done correctly. And we talk about how that's done. You need to have that so that if you get knocked down with an accident or an illness, you're still able to survive while you recover and then can restart your life, your work life. It's critical for you to do that. One of the things that kills me is when people don't have adequate property insurance. So they drive around in a car and they have state minimum insurance. Well, you have a house, you have assets, you have a taxable brokerage, whatever. And if it's not in a retirement account and you get into a lawsuit, guess what happens? That stuff becomes attachable if you don't have enough insurance. It's funny. Like I remember I was one day at the dog park and a friend of mine asked me if she needed umbrella policy. And I said, yes. I knew that she and her husband had several rental properties. And if they got into a car accident or if something happened, okay, the insurance coverage they had was not going to potentially
Mhm.
cut, they would lose all the
Mhm.
investments that they had made. So it became a question of, look, you need to really assess how much insurance you need and what's the most efficient way to get it. And when you get to a point of financial success, when you're in that phase and you have a certain amount of assets, sometimes you can't work with your standard State Farm insurance agent. Sometimes you need to switch to a different type of agent. But looking at that, I don't sell property and casualty, never ever want to. And in my program, I'm saying I'm not going to sell you this stuff. What I want you to do is to understand the tools and make reasonable assessments as to what you need and when you need it. Another thing that we'll talk about a lot is how do you own your identity? When you have people who've gone through identity theft, it's huge.
Mhm.
Okay. It can take 2, 3 years to resolve. It can be
Mhm.
expensive. You can lose a tremendous amount of money. It is easier and less expensive to do the ounce of prevention, take ownership and start dealing with it. But then, there's another piece of this. One of the things that people need more than anything, a good friend of mine went abroad, left her children with her mother. She and her husband were abroad for 10 days or no, 8 days. And while they were abroad, the daughter got sick and needed medical care. And the grandmother didn't have a power of attorney to be able to deal with the situation. Now, thankfully, the doctor was able to deal with it. They were able to upload the authorization to do it. But if that child had needed to go to the hospital, that would not have worked. Okay.
Mhm.
Be proactive. You need to have these things for yourself and for your children. I mean, I even talk about this. My son one time had an issue while he was in college, and I wound up having to go down to College Station to pick him up and take him to the hospital. He was fine, but thank God he was awake and conscious and able to give the doctors the authority to talk to me because I didn't have that power of attorney on him.
That's the one thing I've got to get. I have to make sure I have is because my daughter's autistic. That was someone, and y'all. Here's the thing: we're not saying you've been doing it wrong. I have a daughter who's autistic, who is 21, and someone asked me if I had a medical power of attorney, and I went, okay, but and then they said exactly what Monica just said, and I went, oh shit. Because she's 21, doesn't matter if she's autistic, because she's 21, if if something happens, she's in an accident and she's not able to verbally tell them, if I don't have the medical power of attorney, doesn't matter if I pay her bills or not, they're not allowed to talk to me.
Right.
Period. They're not allowed. And so one of the things on my list to take care of ASAP is getting a medical. And I've sat down and talked to her and explained to her what it is. And she's like, oh, well, we need to do this now. Y'all, she's autistic and she understood it. Like, she's like, I was like, are you okay with it? She's like, yeah, because I'm not, she doesn't like talking to people, y'all. She loves animals. She don't like talking to people. So even when she's coherent and a doctor's asking her, she doesn't want to talk to them. She turns around and looks at me. So you get that now is what she said. So, but again, we don't think about these things. And
But
that's,
who wants to? Really, who wants to think about it?
but it's important too, because this is what we're talking about when you're looking at your money and yes, you want to be able to pay your bills. Yes, you want to be able to buy the things you want. Okay. I'm all for it. I know what being broke is. I know what it looks like. I know what barely making ends meet looks like. I've been there, done it, could write several books on it. You also want to make sure that you're set to take care of you and your family and the things when it comes down to it. I would have never thought about a medical power of attorney unless the person I was talking to, my friend who said that to me, who's a certified financial planner, by the way, said that to me. And I went, oh.
So let me go one further. Okay. If you don't have that and you have to go petition a court to have the authority to act on behalf of somebody, that is A, extraordinarily stressful, and B, it's expensive. Okay. So I look at people and I'm like, would you rather pay a little bit of money and get this done now?
Hire the attorney and pay the damn money now.
Now.
I've looked at it.
And then pay more later. And it's also about the financial. So they're two separate powers of attorney. If you're not going to have a trust, okay, what happens? And you don't have that financial power of attorney, you get into an accident, you need to have someone pay your bills, you're not able to do it. Who goes in and pays your bills? Who has the authority to do it? How do you structure it so that they do it? Putting them on the account means you've given them half of that money. Okay. You've given them access to the money. Not the same thing. You really want to give people the power and the authority to act on your behalf. And there's another thing that's like, I'm sure you've heard this. Don't put it in a bank deposit box unless the person you want to have the authority has the key and is on the box such that they have access to the box. You don't want to put another hurdle in their way where they have to go petition a court for it. Something else that people don't realize, most of us aren't walking around without wills. Why is that a problem? You think about it, even if you do a will, there's the cost of actually getting the will done. And then there's the cost of actually processing it through probate. Okay. And there's a cost and there's fees involved with this. It's not as simple. You have to actually take proactive with this. If you have a retirement account through work, through home, if you have both, whatever, name your beneficiary. When you see people and they name and they say by the estate, okay, passing by the estate, you're actually making it more expensive. Do it proactively, name who you want it to go. You can have a list of beneficiaries. You can have secondary beneficiaries. Have those things done. Life insurance is the same way. You want to have that. Okay. All of these things are part of the defensive thing. So am I going to write a will for you? No, I'm not qualified to do that. All right. Not interested in doing that. What I want you to do is to make sure that this is done. And there are times when, for example, when we do estate planning, there are times when people need both a will and a trust. Why? Because the will names an executor. The executor then has the authority to do things like file your final tax return. Okay. There was a case where I tried to help, and it was a young man, totally estranged from his family, from his father, bad divorce between his mother and his father. And he was set to inherit, but the mother didn't want to do a will and didn't want to take it to an attorney. Well, any documents she had were written up in Texas, and the mother died in Pennsylvania. Well, Pennsylvania has a tax on estate assets. This kid didn't want to file his documents and didn't want to file it, didn't want to take care of it. Well, guess what happened? The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania turned around and assessed him taxes and then penalties on the assets. He didn't want to hear it. And he wound up having to come forward and pay a whole bunch of things. It became so much more expensive than it would have been if his mother had actually done this the right way. Okay. So it's like too smart by half, too stupid by whole.
Well, and here's the thing. The way I look at it is, do I want to spend a little bit of money now,
Absolutely.
or do I want to spend a whole ass a lot of money later?
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
and I say this the same way to businesses, to business owners who go, oh, I don't need a I don't need a certified financial, don't need a certified financial planner, or I don't need a fractional CFO. Okay. Do you know what's going on with your money? Do you have plans in place? No.
Yeah. I,
But
you
you're
know,
expensive, or you cost this much. I'm like, do you realize how much money I can not only save you now, but 15, 20, 25 years from now? Because I
yeah.
got proof. I've got receipts. I can show you,
Yeah.
I have the receipts to prove to you, to show you that what you're paying me now will save you boomcoons of money later. And that's the way that's the way you have to look at it. You have to look at, what does it cost me now? And would I rather pay for it now or pay more later? And
And that's
personally, I'd
what
rather pay some now and save a whole asinine amount of not only money, but stress, because
and
y'all stress, not having a stressful life to me is being wealthy. But,
absolutely.
that's another form of wealth, because when you're stressed or you're not taking care of yourself, what it does to your body, what it does to your business, what it does to everything, it deteriorates. And so that's part of being wealthy. And so to me, I want to take care of it now.
I'm with you, but I'm going to say something. They've done studies. Most of the people who have made wealth and sustained it in their lifetimes take care of their health. They take care of their documents.
I made my health my first priority. When I did that, my business started skyrocketing.
It has to. And if somebody looks at me and
Skyrocketed.
they see me run down and not looking healthy and not looking put together, okay, I'm not saying flashy, I'm saying put together. They're going to look at me and say, how she does anything is how she does everything. If she's going to take care of business the way she's taking care of herself, I don't want anything to do with it. And justifiably.
Mhm.
Okay. It's just real. And we don't want to admit it, but we really are one uniform, holistic person. The money's just a set of tools in your hands. Have you ever seen the movie Misery?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember the scene where the villainess was actually going to hobble the hero, the
Yeah.
ultimate?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
When you don't take ownership of the process and navigate the system, when you don't learn to master this, the way you've learned how to master your business or your career, okay, what you're doing is you're hobbling yourself. You are breaking
Mhm.
your own ankles. And sometimes they'll heal and sometimes they won't. When you don't put things in place properly and take ownership, you'll wind up being in that position of being totally and completely vulnerable. That's not success. That is the opposite. People who are wealthy, who have achieved that financial independence, are radically responsible across all the areas of their life. And they're right, just like you, Lisa Marie, they start with their health.
Mhm.
And then they start with their minds and they realize their emotions are critical because you know what? I don't know about you, but I've seen people engage in what I call mental yoga. They make up their minds on what they want based on an emotional decision, and then they will twist themselves into whatever rationalization or pretzel they have to justify what they've decided. So, mastering your emotions, keeping yourself on an even keel, okay, allows you to you think better, you feel better, and then you wind
Well,
up
you
acting.
think through it instead of reacting. And I used to react. I When I started taking care of my physical health, I started taking care of my mental health, and mm, that mental mindset, and the trauma and all. And once I worked through that, and then I worked on the mental health, I no longer react. And because of that, I no longer let things affect me the way they would normally affect me, which would send
Right,
me into a spiraling stress. And because of that, it's changed how I look at things and how I look at what I'm doing with my money, and how it
right.
just, it changes everything, and all goes together. Now, am I perfect? No, it's a work in progress, y'all, and it will always be a work in progress. That is just the way it is. But it again, lifing.
Well, and
If you wait for life to stop lifing to get better at have a better relationship with your money, and get better at managing it, you will never do it.
I agree. And one of the things that I'll do with people, among others, is we'll walk through a series of, we build out the foundations of some of the positive psychology and shifting the mind. But one of the most powerful things we do once we deal with like the daily emotional bank account and working through really power affirmations, what we'll do is we'll do something called a future self vision. And that is where I want people to envision themselves managing their money, seeing the progress they want to see, feeling comfortable, feeling that sense of success. And then I see them literally build it out. What are they doing before? What are they doing during? What are they doing afterwards? And I want them to describe how they think, how they feel, what's around them, who's around them. Can they smell anything? Can I touch anything? Are they sitting on a particular chair? What are they doing while they're going through this whole process? Why? Because I will then have them write it out in a simple paragraph or 2 paragraphs, read it into their phone
And
and
listen to
record it
it. Yeah.
and listen to it
Listen to
every
it.
night and every morning because I want them to program themselves doing it. I want them to use their subconscious mind to align for them and help them navigate and get closer to what they want.
Because if you start living like you have what you want now, you get what you focus on, period.
Correct.
And if you're not living now like you would with the things that you want, then you're not focusing on that. You're focusing on negativity. And if you were to focus on it and live like that, it attracts it. It works, y'all. It works.
Well,
It's part of the cognitive brain thing, and it just works.
here's the other piece. If you set, like people talk about affirmations and they set them up the wrong way because your mind is designed to protect itself. So if you give it an excuse or an out, it's going to trend towards that because
Mhm,
it's safer. All right.
mhm.
If you're asking it to accept that you're going to rewrite the way you were programmed, you're going to learn new habits, you're going to buck the culture because we've all inculcated and marinated in a stew that does not promote this. Okay. You're asking it to take major steps forward. So you're going to have to really work with it and you're going to have to not give your subconscious room to choose not to succeed.
Right,
Okay. You
right.
cannot go anywhere that your mind hasn't gone before you. You
Yeah,
can't.
you
Okay.
can't. Yeah.
So I have to visualize myself working out. I have to visualize myself achieving the goals, knowing that the success is going to happen beneath the surface. I'm not going to see it, but eventually over time, it's going to cumulatively build to get me
Hmm.
to where I want to go.
Hmm.
So, I mean, you can go through James Clear's Atomic Habits and he describes this. We work with the same tools or some of the same tools, but it's really just using the mind to achieve it. There is nothing in the financial system you can't master. There's no reason to approach it with fear. You can master this. The question is you have to decide that you're going to do it.
You have to make a decision that you're gonna change your
Right.
thought process and your mindset and how you're managing it.
And then,
It's a
right.
decision.
And then you also have to find a place where you can actually learn and trust what you're reading. Because quite frankly, you have to understand there is no financial advisor out there that is compensated directly as a financial advisor to teach you all these skills. Okay. That's part of the reason why I developed my program and why I do it where I do it. It is not advisory. This is an educational piece. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to break the system open for you. But there are
Mhm.
other people who you've got to choose the system that works for you.
Yeah, and have the support that you
Yeah.
need so that you're not going it alone. I
You
mean,
can't do it alone.
I tell my people all the time, my clients all the time, I'm a fractional CFO. I am able to manage the money and go in and help you see where it can work, help you build the account so then you can now take that to a financial planner and you can start building wealth while we're also managing your business and growing it and investing in the way we're and you're paying yourselves because so many people don't. Um, and 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 just have it to where you're not on what I call the never-ending hamster wheel of you're just spinning and you're going nowhere. How many entrepreneurs have come to me and they're making above 250K, they're in the high six figures, and they feel like they can't get off that hamster wheel to skyrocket to seven figures. And normally it's because they don't have a system in place and they don't have the support. And then when they work with me, they're all of a sudden go, oh my gosh, why did I wait so long? I said, I don't know, because y'all are stubborn.
Well, and I can't understate the value of what she's saying, but I can also say something too. You need to, when you own a business, You need to understand that you have to have a succession plan, because if you invest your heart and soul in your business, and so many of us do, it becomes very quickly, especially if you do not build out that wealth piece. And even if you do, it's a major asset for yourself and for your family. And you have to have a succession plan in place. You never get into an investment without knowing what the exit plan is. Never, ever, ever, ever. Always have that in your mind. It can change, it can shift, but always have that in your mind. First time I ever saw something like this, cousin was very, very successful chemical engineer, and he had 4 patents. He went into business with somebody who represented the business side. And I think 15 years into owning the business, he had a heart attack. They had drawn up a succession plan, and they had arranged for funding with a life insurance policy that had a disability rider. They had everything that they needed inside of it. And every couple of years, they reviewed it to make sure that it was adequate and added to it if they needed to. Well, within 1 month of that heart attack, he was bought out, completely bought out of the business, and had enough money to support himself and his family for the rest of his life. Okay. That is critical. If you don't have a succession plan in place and you try to sell the business after an injury or an illness, you are going to get pennies on the dollar if it sells. It's like sharks circling the water. You have to plan for this. You own this, you've built it. Protect yourself and it and your
Mhm.
family by doing this. Okay.
Mhm.
If you value yourself, you take care of yourself. If you value yourself, you take care of these things. And as difficult as it may be, just start small. And quite frankly, a fractional CFO is really the place to start with a business. It
Mhm.
really is. But yeah, no, this is really critical.
I
And
mean, I
there,
mean, it's it, y'all. You got you. I tell people all the time, your business is your baby. You've put your heart and your soul into it. Would you leave your kids unattended? Would or would you have support? And
yeah,
all of us mothers are going to say we would have support, even if we didn't have any. Right? If we don't have any, because I've not always had any, but if we have, we would have the support. We'd get the support. We get the support. I've gotten the support.
right.
Okay, then why would you leave your business unattended to where the foundations of it is not taken care of and protected?
Mhm, absolutely.
Because it's the root. Okay. It's the root. I
The
can't say
other,
that enough. Okay.
one
We
last
could talk
thing.
all day. We could talk all day, all day, all day.
One last thing that I want to say. Okay. And I want to say this, you have to plan. Your business is your business and your personal is your personal. Okay. You should not commingle.
Oh,
Yes,
God,
you are
no, please don't. Y'all know
right.
that.
And I'm just saying this. It's like
I
getting,
say it all the time. Do not.
okay. I just had to say that. I just had to
No.
say that. Sorry. Okay. Never mind.
That sends me into a tangent. All my clients will know. If they listen to this, they'll go, "Oh Lord,
Yep. Good.
not
Good. Good.
commingle your damn funds." Not only that, but it will also null and void your LLC. Okay, I cannot stress that enough. Don't. Oh, I got an LLC. I'm protected. Do
No,
you
you're not.
know? Then no, you're not, because in a court that will nullify it
Disappear.
quick. It will make that thing non-existent. You
Okay.
basically wasted your money to get it.
You need
So
to get proper guidance to understand where your boundaries are, because those boundaries are designed to protect you. And the fact is that you and I have both seen this, and other people have as well. People have not used their boundaries, or they've punctured or damaged their boundaries, and they've gotten themselves in trouble. And that's part of what those defenses are. That's a critical piece of what those defenses are. So there's defenses for businesses and defenses for the individuals. If you're a business owner, you need both.
yeah, very much so. Y'all, I hope you got what you need to get out of this. Okay, you start again. I always tell you, you've never budgeted, you never had a money roadmap, you've never done anything. Start small, start, and then go from there. That's just the whole kit and caboodle. That's the whole thing. That's what you're supposed to do. And I can talk about this all day. Until next time, thank you so much for being here. I truly enjoyed having you on a guest. And y'all, until next time, remember, confidence and cash is the ultimate power duo. Go check in with your money. Have a relationship. Until
Have a
next
good
time.
relationship with
Yes,
money.
a good relationship with money. Go check in on it. And
Take
until
care
next
of
time,
yourself and love
yeah,
yourself enough to do it.
very
But
much so.
thank you. Thank you.
Very much so. Thank you. And I will see y'all next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us this week on Cash and Sass. Check us out on social media and on our website at www.thesassywealthcoach.com, where you can download my free Money Story Start Guide. The website again is www.thesassywealthcoach.com. And as always, subscribe to the show to catch every new episode and leave us a review so we can continue to bring you fresh content. And remember, yes, it is possible to have sassy and sexy money. See you next week.